What's up everyone and welcome back to the channel. The time has finally come. The Active 2.0 electric pressure washer is here. So let's go ahead and check this thing out, guys. Again, this is the updated version to the original Active VE52. That one had a couple minor issues that were just kind of dealt with when you were extending the hose, kind of dialing it in for the detailing industry. But this one, they took all that stuff into account. They upgraded the components on the internals of the pump and the motor. They completely redesigned the machine and it's beautiful. So let's go ahead and jump into it, guys. Let's start off with an unboxing and then we'll get into the components that it comes with and finally testing it to see exactly what the usable numbers are of this unit. And guys, don't forget, the free live training that Luke from Wilson Auto Detailing is putting on is tonight, September 15th. I think it's 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I believe. But I have a link down in the description below for you guys so you can go and register for that event. He's gonna be talking about some of the key points on how to start and scale a detailing business. So for all of you that have been considering starting a business or just want some insight on how to kind of make it grow bigger, get more customers, all that kind of good stuff, he's gonna be diving into that. So make sure to register for that event, link in the description below. All right guys, so here it is. Absolutely beautiful little unit. Really, really nice. Now, when I unboxed this, it did have some kind of oily residue on the lower half of the unit. I don't know if something leaked out. I don't know, but I just wiped it up with a towel. Everything seems fine. So hopefully that doesn't affect anything. But as you guys can see, the overall design of the unit is absolutely fantastic. Nice handle right up top. You can see the pump actually sticking right out of the front of the machine. Nice brass connection points for your water inlet and your water outlet. Nice new switch on top. So that was one of the problems that they had with the Active VE52 is a push button system and it was getting stuck over time. So with this one, they changed it to a basic switch system and it is covered, so it's all waterproof. Comes with plenty of nozzles in the back. Now on the website, it does show that it comes with 4.0 orifice nozzles. And what that means is not so much the degree of the fan, not 15 degree, 20 degree, all that kind of stuff, but it's actually the hole size inside that the water is passing through, creating its PSI and GPM ratings. They list them as a 4.0 on the website, but these actually shipped with a 3.7 orifice nozzle, which is what the VE52 shipped with as well. But with this one, you do get an extra nozzle. You get the 0, 15, 25, which you didn't get with the VE52, and the 40 degree nozzle. Now you also get some other accessories. You get a cool little foam blaster. Now guys, I don't recommend these that much just because you could put a quick connect on it, but it's just not the best quality. This is gonna provide soapy water. And when you compare this to something like a full-blown actual foam cannon, I always recommend the MJJC Foam Cannon Pro. It gets the most amount of foam for the cheapest price. There's three that get a ton of foam. The MJJC, the MTM, and the Griot's Boss, in my opinion, get the most foam out of all of them. And the MJJC is the most cost-effective of those three. Now moving right along, you get your pressure washer wand. It's kind of the same thing that comes across the board. It's got metal internals, but it's a nice plastic housing. It does have a trigger lock system here. And then also you get the metal wand extension, which just goes into the end of the unit. You tighten it down and you're good to go. Now at the end of the metal extension, you do have your quick connect and that's where your nozzles will go. Now from there, you have your connection point for the hose right here. It's not my favorite. I always prefer that it comes out the back just so that it's out of the way a little bit more. With this, you're working on a car and this could potentially, the hose is dropping right here. It could potentially rub against a fender or something like that. Could cause potential marring. So just be careful with that. Again, it's pretty standard across the board with all these consumer-based pressure washers. Now this one is consumer-based. I'm gonna call it consumer-based plus. They rate this thing at 200 hours of use. Now, when you compare that to most big box pressure washers, the Ryobis, the Greenworks, the Craftsmans, all those pressure washers, those are all typically rated at 100 hours of use. How did they take this one up to 200? They went through and they broke this thing open and they went through every component they could find and refined it. And the idea behind that is all the additional tooling makes the fit and finish absolutely perfect, so it's going to last longer. Now, talking about the hose connection, let's move into the hose. They include a 20 foot, I believe it's 20 foot, 20 or 25 feet, but I believe it's 20 feet, steel braided hose. So this is a great industrial grade hose. You're not gonna have any issues with that. It's a little cumbersome, not bad, and doesn't kink. So it's a decent hose for sure. I like it. The only thing I don't like is it's only 20 feet. I definitely recommend upgrading that to a longer hose. And that brings us to another point in that this thing is now optimized so that you can put on longer hoses and all that kind of stuff and not have any issues with it down the road. It's not gonna cause any surging or anything like that. They built this thing knowing that, hey, people in the detailing industry are gonna want a longer hose than a 20-foot hose. So the hose that I recommend is this guy here. This is the UberFlex hose from Pro Pulse, and they are different than all the others. They have this nice coating on them, and they are super, super, super pliable, and they don't kink either. You can get it to roll over on itself, but there's no memory in the line like a traditional pressure washer hose. I use this every day in my professional detailing business, never have any issues with them. And this thing is absolutely fantastic. Again, guys, I can't recommend it enough. Go get one of these. It'll make your pressure washing experience so much better. You'll have the length to get all the way around a car, and it's not gonna be all binded up behind you like a traditional pressure washer hose would be. So check these out. They do use an M22 by 14 connection point, which on this machine is the exact same. So you can replace this thing without having to use any adapters. Now this thing is still rated at 1800 PSI, 2 GPM. Now, because of the new internals on this pump and motor, they say that you do get about an 8% increase in performance over the VE52 and also an 8% reduction in noise level. On top of that, on the housing, you'll see this ventilation screen up front and also in the back, and that is just to address any cooling needs for the motor. And guys, as you can see, the unit is very, very small. I'm gonna compare it to a Ryobi 1800 PSI pressure washer. And this thing actually sits a little bit lower, a little bit narrower, but slightly longer than the Ryobi. But overall, the footprint of this thing is tiny. All they did was kind of simplify this unit down into exactly what you need for car detailing. They didn't put a ton of accessories on this thing. There's no storage because 99% of the time as a detailer, we either have our own hoses, we have these things mounted on the wall or in our vans, whatever else, and they didn't add any of that stuff that we do not need. A little handle on top is nice to carry it around. Other than that, you have your nozzle storage, and that's it. So now let's go ahead and take it to the front of my shop. We're gonna hook this thing up to water. We're gonna test the decibel reading. We're gonna test the amperage pull of this unit. They do state on their website 3.5 orifice to 7.0 orifice is recommended for this machine. Again, it states on their website it comes with a 4.0, but in reality, these are 3.7s. And along with that, we'll be testing out the actual usable PSI and the usable GPM just to see how this thing works for car detailing. Okay guys, so we're at the front of the shop now. I've got the unit all hooked up and everything's ready to go. Now for this first test, we're gonna be using all the factory equipment that it came with, the factory hose, factory wand, all that kind of good stuff. Now as always, I do have a PSI gauge attached, so we're gonna test the PSI there and see how it's looking. So I'm gonna start off, we're gonna start off with the 40-degree angle. Again, the orifice size is the same across all these, so the PSI and GPM should be the same, but just to prove that, I'll do the 40 and then I'll do the 0 degree as well. We should be showing the same numbers. All right guys, so I've turned the water supply on, I've purged all the air out of the system, I have turned the machine on just to make sure everything was good, and now we're gonna go ahead and test the decibel reading to see how loud it is. And as you can see, just the basic ambient noise is sitting right around that 50 to 52 mark. So about this distance away, the machine is right here. I always do it about 3 feet away. I'm gonna try and keep the trigger of the sprayer away as well because that obviously adds noise. So here we go. So bouncing between 79 and 80, which is very quiet. Usually it's, I wanna say 83 to 85 typically for most pressure washers. That's pretty quiet. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take my phone, I'm gonna pull it up here. This is my amp meter. I'm gonna check the amp pull on this machine. Okay guys, so here it is. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the trigger. And so it topped out at 13.65 amps. Now let's go ahead and check the PSI using this 40-degree nozzle. Let me get that, there we go. I guess we're gonna call that 1050. Yeah, 1050 PSI. Now just to show you guys, I'm gonna go ahead and take the 0-degree nozzle just to confirm that this is the exact same orifice size and we're getting the same numbers. Yep, exact same deal. So red 0-degree nozzle, and here we go. So again, the orifice size is what matters, not the degree when you're talking about PSI and GPM. And because the 15 and 25-degree nozzle are the same 3.7 orifice, that means this is gonna they all get the same, so we don't have to test those, we're just gonna test the 40. Now, if you remember, I did state that they recommend anything from a 3.5 to a 7.0 orifice for this machine. So I have a 3.5 orifice here, and I have a 4.0 orifice here. So that way we'll have numbers for the 3.0, the 3.7, that it came with and the 4.0. Okay guys, so the 3.5 orifice nozzle. Let me get this to focus, and here we go. So we're getting 1200 PSI with this nozzle. Now I did monitor the amperage reading as well, and it got up to 14.98. So if you're on a 15 amp, you should be good, but just know that the 3.5 could get into that range where you're gonna potentially trip your breaker. Now moving on to the 4.0 nozzle. So this is the 4.0 rated nozzle. I got these from Home Depot, they're DeWalt brand. But as you can see guys, it's giving us that same exact 1050 rating. So even though these are labeled 3.7, maybe they are actually the 4.0 equivalent. So what they state is correct. So we don't have to test this one anymore because it gets the same numbers as the one it came with. Now before we go ahead and jump into the GPM rating, I wanted to test out this little accessory that it comes with, the little foam blaster, just to see how much foam it really creates in comparison to a traditional actual foam cannon. Now with foam cannons guys, they do state on their website that ideally you want to use a 1.25 orifice foam cannon just for the draw of the machine. So with the MJJC that I'm going to be using, it actually has a 1.1 installed in it already. It also comes with a 1.25, so you're covered, but I want to test it with the 1.1 just to see where it puts us on that scale. So I'm going to go ahead and insert the little foam blaster, tighten it down. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to go ahead and point you guys out at the car. I'm going to spray it real quick just so you can see. All right, and here we go. And that actually gives a decent amount of foam, guys. I'm going to film it up close with my phone here so you can see better. And as you can see, it's super watery. It's just running right off the panel over the logo there. But it does give good coverage. Now, as far as the amperage draw goes, it got to about 12.7 amps with this little foam blaster. Now, just to show you guys the difference, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the MJJC Foam Cannon Pro. I'm just taking the soap that I had from here, pouring it directly into the canister for this one, not adding or subtracting any product. So that's all we got. And again, this one has the 1.1 orifice installed, so we'll test it and see what it's pulling. All right guys, so here we go with the MJJC Foam Cannon Pro, just so you can see the difference of actual, like real deal foam cannon versus that foam blaster. And as you guys can see, the foam is so thick, like just crazy thick, not moving off the panel at all. It's giving the soap the chance to sit on the dirt and break it down so that it rinses off nicely. Now once again, guys, I did monitor the amperage rating with this foam cannon with the 1.1 installed, which is what they do not recommend. They recommend using a 1.25 orifice. With that 1.25, it should be around that 13 amp number. With the 1.1 though, it jumped right up to about 19 amps and then settled down at about 17.5. So if you're on a 15 amp breaker, you're gonna have issues. Make sure to use a 20 amp or just keep the 1.25 orifice inside of it and you'll be good to go. And that's actually what that foam cannon ships with. It ships with a 1.25 orifice installed in it. You have the 1.1 option also, but it's gonna work super, super well with that 1.25 orifice. Okay guys, so now that that's all done, we know the PSI ratings, we're gonna go ahead and switch over to checking the GPM. I have my bucket here with the measurements on the side. Just gonna stick the nozzle in, run it for 1 minute, and we'll know what the gallons per minute rating is. Now we are starting off with the factory nozzle. This is the 3.7 or 4.0 orifice. Again, it was getting the same numbers as the 4.0. So I've got my stopwatch ready, and here we go. All right, and there is our 1 minute mark. Let's go ahead and check and see where it's at. I'm gonna let the water settle and then we'll see. Okay guys, so 8 quarts is 2 gallons per minute, and this isn't quite there, but it pretty much is. I mean, we're very, very close. We're probably at 7 3/4 quarts, so just barely shy of that 2 gallon per minute mark. Now, just to make sure we're doing all of our due diligence, we're gonna go ahead and use that 3.5 orifice now. Again, the one that it came with was getting 1050 PSI. This one's getting 1200 PSI. So both those numbers are okay for me for car detailing. With 1050 at that basically 2 gallons per minute, that's probably where I'm gonna use it at. But just so we know, let's test the 3.5. And here we go. All right, so there's 1 minute. Let's go ahead and let that settle and we'll check it out. And yeah, we did lose a little bit of flow, which was expected, right? When we increase that PSI, we usually decrease the GPM a little bit, but it's still fantastic numbers. We're still at basically 7.5 quarts. So as you can see, it's right there. So just about 7.5 quarts. So still amazing water flow at 1200 PSI. And so now for the final test, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and hook up the UberFlex hose. Again, 50 feet, way better. It just makes it easier to go around the car. So we'll go ahead and test the PSI and the GPM using that 3.7 orifice that it came with, because that's, again, I think that's where I'm going to be using it. 1050 PSI, 2 gallons per minute, or just shy of it. And then I'm going to go ahead and show you guys with the additional length from that hose. I'm going to go ahead and wash my car, and you'll be able to see how easy it is for me to get around the whole thing. And I'm also going to be using my Macmillan's pressure washer wand. Now this does have a swivel built in as well, so fantastic little wand for much, much cheaper than some of the alternatives. And this really just gives you an absolutely great way to optimize this machine by adding a longer hose, adding a quick connect short stubby wand, getting that foam cannon with the 1.25 orifice installed. And you can get all these things. The foam cannon's 75 bucks. This I think is around 50. The hose is around 50, so you're in for 175 bucks. I know Obsessed Garage sells an upgrade kit along with it on their site, but it gets substantially more expensive. You're spending more than the cost of the machine, so weigh out your options, figure out where it works best for you. For me, guys, again, I use this every day in my professional detailing business. This hose, this wand, that foam cannon, no issues, and you're able to get it at a fraction of the cost of what's on their site. Now, I will say the items that are put together for that upgrade kit from Obsessed Garage are all phenomenal products. Very, very, very good stuff. It's just, if you have the budget for it, I think those are absolute amazing items, but this is a great way to get it done for a lot less. And once again, one of the added benefits of this machine switching over to an M22x14 connection point is this hose. You don't need any adapter. Just go ahead and push it in, tighten it down, and you'll be all set. So once again, we're gonna hook up the PSI gauge into the wand. We're going to grab the 3.7 orifice nozzle that it came with. Good to go. We're gonna go ahead and turn our water source back on and the power back on. There we go, just had to let it purge for a second, and let's check the PSI. Now, I've never had this happen before. Typically when you upgrade the hose to a longer connection point, I haven't noticed any change in PSI, but this one changed just slightly. It looks like we're averaging 1,000 PSI now. And actually slightly above 1,000 PSI, so there's definitely a marginal difference, maybe 20 to 30 PSI, but there is a difference. Really quickly, let's go ahead and go over to the 3.5 orifice and check that one. Again, we were getting 1,200 PSI with this one. So no change on the 3.5, but a slight change on the 3.7. Pretty much the same, but very slight change on that one. Let's go ahead and take the 3.7 now and test the GPM to see if we're still at that just under 2 GPM mark. And once again, we're gonna run this thing for 1 minute. I'm gonna check the PSI as we're going, see if it gets up to that 1,050 mark, but we'll see. Here we go. All right, so there is our 1 minute. And I gotta say, it barely creeped up above 1,000, but I would say just a true 1,000 PSI. And once again, guys, for the water flow, yeah, we're sitting just barely under 2 gallons per minute. Not quite a full 2 gallons, not quite 8 quarts, but 7 3/4, I'd say. So there are the numbers, guys. 1,050 PSI is what I'm getting at just shy of 2 gallons per minute with the factory nozzle it comes with. And then we also tested it with that 3.5 orifice, and with that nozzle, we got 1,200 PSI and just about 7.5 quarts, which would be 1.875 gallons per minute. So fantastic numbers from this machine. Now, I know a lot of you may be asking, well, it's like, well, why do they rate it at 1,800 PSI? the machine is capable of getting that if you use a smaller orifice. Now, when you do use a smaller orifice, you're gonna spike that PSI and you're also gonna spike the amp rating. So if you're using a 15 amp breaker, it's probably gonna have issues, but you can get it up to that, I'm assuming, just with a smaller orifice. I didn't bother testing it because that's not what we're looking for. This thing is built for car detailing and we're not looking for super high PSI. We're looking for that good PSI number with that fantastic GPM, and this thing gets it. So my final thoughts on this thing, guys, is can you find a better pressure washer specifically for car detailing at that $350 mark? I don't think you can. This thing is fantastic. Now, I personally would just buy the $330 version just because the accessories that it comes with are sufficient. They're good. They give you a good quality hose. It's just short, so I would definitely upgrade that, get that longer hose, get a stubby one, get a better foam cannon, and you're off to the races, guys. So unless you're looking to spend around 800 bucks, this is gonna be your best option, guys. I have the AR Blue, fantastic machine, around 800 bucks, gets about the same numbers. I have the Adams Pro pressure washer, again, $800 to $1,000, gets about the same numbers. Fantastic unit, but again, 800 to 1,000. And then I have the Kranzla 1122 TST. Again, phenomenal machine, great numbers, but about a $1,400 price tag. Now, all three of those machines are fully serviceable and all that kind of stuff, so longevity-wise, those are gonna last longer because you can service all the components. But again, you're spending at least double. For the prosumer, for the DIYer that just wants absolute quality that's gonna last a fantastic amount of time, I think this is the best choice for you guys. So that's it. I hope that video helps you. Please make sure to like the video. Make sure you're subscribed, turn on that notification bell. We'll see you on the next one.